When it comes to contemporary cinema, Wong Kar-wai has one of the most unique and celebrated visions in the game. Renowned for his striking visuals, romantic yet intelligent storytelling, and unconventional technique, he has been internationally regarded as a legendary cinema auteur. However, Kar-wai's technique has been in development for over 20 years, and his now instantly recognizable style has been cultivated over a series of films by the hands of not only Kar-wai himself, but as well as his frequent collaborators such as cinematographer Christopher Doyle, production designer William Chang, and actors such as Tony Leung, Maggie Cheung, Leslie Cheung, and Karina Lau. To understand how Kar-wai's style came to be what it is today, we must tell the story from the beginning. Born in Shanghai, but due to the Chinese Cultural Revolution, relocating to Hong Kong at the age of 5, Kar-wai developed an interest in international cinema, specifically French New Wave, which would come to influence his work at a young age. After studying graphic design for 2 years at Hong Kong Polytechnic College in 1980, he enrolled in a production training course during which he came to the attention of Alan Tang, a reputable producer in Hong Kong. Kar-wai was hired by Tang to write several scripts for a variety of films and television shows, most of which Kar-wai was less than enthusiastic about. However, the work would begin to pay off starting in 1986, when Tang would begin to help Wong Kar-wai direct his first feature film, As Tears Go By, which was released in 1988. Kar-wai kicked off his career with a crime film, starring Andy Lau and Maggie Cheung, the latter of whom would go on to appear in multiple of his films as Wah and Noor, two second cousins who enter a complicated romance in the midst of Wah's tension with the mob in Hong Kong. Elements of what would become Kar-wai's signature cinematic style can be seen sparingly in As Tears Go By. Not only is it a tragic love story, but bright, dynamic color palettes, long, tense shots, plenty of dark situational lighting, as well as a clever use of pop music can be found throughout the film. However, unlike Kar-wai's later work, these stylistic choices feel less integral to the film's vision. They are used periodically and are not very emphasized, which was to the benefit of As Tears Go By in that it was less alienated from other crime films of its time. However, in typical fashion of a debut, Kar-wai failed to hone his ideas the way that he would begin to in Days of Being Wild, released in 1990. Days of Being Wild saw Kar-wai utilizing the atmosphere of a scene and making great use of space, as it was Kar-wai's first collaboration with cinematographer Christopher Doyle. The themes of heartbreak, confusion, loss, and ultimate existentialism are explored deeper here than they were in As Tears Go By. One of Kar-wai's defining qualities as an auteur director is the consistency of these themes throughout his work. The film stars first-time collaborator Leslie Cheung as Yuddy, a self-obsessed womanizer who has broken the hearts of two women, played by Maggie Cheung and Karina Lau, has a contentious relationship with his adoptive mother, desires to find his biological mother, and who generally has a dysfunctional relationship with women. It's definitely another tale of heartbreak, but Days of Being Wild is less focused on delivering a clean narrative and more about framing an emotion or an idea through a cast of characters. And that led to the film not greatly succeeding upon its release. However, today it's acclaimed by critics and fans as one of Wong Kar-wai's best. The film wasn't easy to shoot. Karina Lau was briefly kidnapped during filming. Alan Tang and Kar-wai were having creative differences, and Kar-wai was ruthless in his efforts to get the actors to perform more natural. But regardless, the film is a labor of great art. Although Days of Being Wild saw Kar-wai establishing himself as an auteur director, the meticulous shot framing and experimentation with editing, which would come to define his style, would first appear in Chungking Express, released in 1994. Chungking Express was made as a result of Kar-wai's frustration with the speed at which Ashes of Time, a film that would be released later in 1994, was moving at. Ashes of Time was his most ambitious project yet, and as a result of Kar-wai opening his production company with Jeffrey Lau, Jet Tone Productions, at the time of the film's shooting, production on the film was experiencing several delays. Chungking Express was made to distract Kar-wai from these difficulties and fulfilled his desire to create something that was brighter, sexier, and more alive than the darker-themed Ashes of Time. The film brilliantly captures the essence of Hong Kong in the 1960s. Bright, busy, multicultural, popping with color and light, and perpetually chaotic. Through the blurry, shaking shots, improvisational dialogue, glittering pop music, and Kar-Wai's clever use of frame within a frame and mirror shots, all things that would come to be part of his signature style, Chungking Express manages to remain exciting from beginning to end. The film is split into two sections. The first telling the story of how an innocent, heartbroken cop who frequents a midnight snack bar where he persistently makes payphone calls to his ex-girlfriend, and a blonde-wigged woman caught up in the Hong Kong drug trade make an unlikely friendship. And the second about a different innocent, heartbroken cop who catches the eye of a whimsical young woman working at the same midnight snack bar who can't seem to stop breaking in and redecorating his apartment. The two stories don't have a ton in common, but they are connected in that they are both tales of romances blossoming in the Chungking Mansion's mall, and they both beam with the culture of Hong Kong. The film was a notable success, especially coming out after Days of Being Wild, and received positive reviews from critics. Today, it's referred to as one of his best works, and a triumph for Hong Kong cinema. Ashes of Time is a martial arts film based after Jin Yong's novel, The Legend of the Condor Heroes. It was a notable departure from the humor in Chungking Express. However, it was still done in true Wong Kar-Wai auteur style, particularly in its characters and dialogue, as Kar-Wai never wrote a script for the film and encouraged the actors to improvise, most of whom had worked with him before, such as Maggie and Leslie Chung. This made for a difficult shoot, along with the film going over its budget and schedule, and the post-production after shooting took an entire year. Unfortunately, the film was received with mixed reviews. However, Kar-Wai would later refine the film in a re-release, Ashes of Time Redux, that would be released in 2008 to more critical success. Kar-Wai then returned to the ideas that he had sparked with Chungking Express and created its informal sequel, Fallen Angels. Fallen Angels, like Chungking Express, tells two stories that are vaguely interconnected. One story revolves around a hitman, played by Leon Lay, and his contact, played by Michelle Rice, who is suppressing her feelings for him. The second story is about a mute prison escapee, played by Takeshi Kaneshiro, who robs people's houses and sells their belongings for a living, who falls in an unrequited love with his friend Charlie. None of Kar-Wai's typical cast members make an appearance in this film. However, behind the scenes the team was much of the same, including Christopher Doyle and William Chang. Together they brought the vibrant Hong Kong back to the big screen, using the same handheld cameras and improvised dialogue, but this time with a sharper focus on emphasizing the deep, saturated color palettes, natural light, and shot dimensions that were unpronounced in Chungking Express. The film was received well, and further solidified Wong Kar-Wai's place in cinema. Wong Kar-Wai had become less interested in films set in Hong Kong, and in Happy Together told the story of a troubled relationship between two gay men, played by Tony Leung and Leslie Chung, who traveled to Buenos Aires to fix their problems and instead find themselves growing farther apart from each other. Again, Kar-Wai gave the actors notes as opposed to scripts and instructed them to invent the dialogue in order to make the film feel as realistic as possible. Wong Kar-Wai, cinematographer Christopher Doyle, and production designer William Chang had collaborated on every project together since Days of Being Wild, and the three had developed a close friendship. They were unfamiliar with Buenos Aires, however they had envisioned the film to appear ethereal, as if from a dream, and together would enhance that quality of the city, using different film stocks and scenic shots, as well as an accompanying soundtrack of bossa nova and Latin ballads. The film was deservedly successful, earning Kar-Wai Best Director at Cannes Film Festival. It's a beautiful and sorrowful story, and is an endless array of gorgeous imagery. However, with his next film, In the Mood for Love, Kar-Wai, Doyle, and Chang would bring their collective vision to new heights. After China regained control over Hong Kong from the British in 1997, Wong Kar-Wai was enthusiastic to work again in Hong Kong. He had began to develop Summer in Beijing, a multi-layered story about three couples. However, that was eventually scrapped and reimagined into a musical, starring longtime partners of Kar-Wai, Maggie Chung and Tony Leung. The musical idea was tossed. However, with having Days of Being Wild in mind as the prequel to the next film, Wong Kar-Wai created In the Mood for Love, originally called A Story of Food. A story about a woman and a man who discover that their spouses are cheating on them with each other, and in the process of deciding how to confront them, they develop their own feelings for each other. However, they deny themselves permission to love one another, for it would make them just as unfaithful as their partners. Their relationship is often referred to as a tragic affair, But a crucial and heartbreaking element of the story is that these two characters never really enter an affair at all. Rather, they just rest on the brink throughout the film, repeatedly coming painfully close but just missing each other each time. It's a powerful romance film, but beyond that, In the Mood for Love has brilliant technical Easter eggs, making the film a feast for the eyes, from beginning to end. For example, one will notice that every single shot in the first 12 minutes of this film are a frame within a frame, meaning not only are the characters filmed within the rectangle of the scene itself, but within an internal shape in the scene as well. The frame within a frame technique creates a sense of voyeurism in the viewer, allowing the camera to act as a fly on the wall, as a viewer itself. The story is told almost entirely through Mr. Chow and Mr. Chang's subtle glances and touches, reflecting their inability to effectively communicate with one another. And the film's narrative, similar to that of Chungking Express and Fallen Angels, erratically jumps from one time to another, reading as would a memory, a technique that invites the viewer deep into the story and is masterfully executed by Wong Kar-wai. Visually, the film is a marvel, set almost entirely in an apartment in Hong Kong, rich with color, culture, fashion, and effortless beauty. The few other locations are incidental, for the intent of the film's scenic repetition is to create a sense of familiarity in the viewer to the Shanghainese community of Hong Kong and their lives, creating a circular effect throughout the film. Wong Kar-wai had a surge of success with In the Mood for Love. It has become a hit among cinema fans worldwide and is popularly regarded as his best film and the best film of the 21st century. "2046", released in 2004, completed the informal trilogy of complicated love stories that Wong Kar-wai created with Days of Being Wild and In the Mood for Love. It is another multi-arc story, set in a futuristic Hong Kong, about Mr. Chow and the women that he becomes involved with, who he is unable to treat properly as a result of the fallout of his relationship with Miss Chang, which has left him scarred and nostalgic to a fault. Through his fiction, he creates the world of 2046, where there is no heartbreak or loss, for in 2046, nothing ever changes. The film is another loose narrative from Kar-wai, where the film is split into several vaguely related sections that chronicle Chow's difficulties navigating relationships with women, in reference to Days of Being Wild, and his quest to get over his romance with Miss Chang, in obvious reference to In the Mood for Love. This excellently completed his 1960s trilogy by combining elements from the previous two films with a sci-fi fantasy flair that was unconventional for Wong Kar-wai. The film was exquisitely directed and designed, and was received well by critics. My Blueberry Nights, released in 2008, and The Grandmaster, released in 2013, are the last two feature films directed by Wong Kar-wai. They are worth talking about as one, for both films take a detour from the director's style. With My Blueberry Nights, Kar-wai made his first film in English, set in New York City, with a star-studded cast such as Natalie Portman and Norah Jones. While it contains similar cinematography to Kar-wai's earlier work, despite this being his first film without Christopher Doyle since As Tears Go By, the energy of Hong Kong in films such as Chungking Express and Fallen Angels was missing, and ultimately the film failed to live up to the expectations created by Wong Kar-wai's last few films. The Grandmaster was a better success. However, stylistically there was a night and day difference compared to the rest of his work. It is a martial arts film similar to Ashes of Time, but the long cuts and dynamic colors were missing, and the general set design was somewhat Hollywood-influenced and full of action movie gimmicks and high dramatization. However, the change of pace in these films do not change the fact that Wong Kar-wai is undeniably an influential cinema auteur. Nearly his entire catalog maintains several of the same components: interconnecting storylines with underlying themes of love, loss, and existential dread, cinematography chock full of sharp, unconventional editing, meticulous and colorful set design, often having only one source of light in one shot, the energy of Hong Kong, and one of the prime qualities of an auteur, working with the same cast and crew members for a multitude of films. Kar-wai's ultimate trademark is consistency. He has upheld his reputation by expanding upon his ideas in new, unexpected ways with each project, staying true to the roots of his art while remaining one of the most explorative filmmakers of our time. He is eager to take risks, put himself and his audience outside their comfort zone, and with each release he crosses an uncharted territory in film. Wong Kar-wai has had a unique and distinguished career. He is a legend of auteur cinema.